Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at the exercise for this course. So in this exercise, we're going to be working with precipitation data for Vancouver. And when we look at the data, it looks like this. So this would be in millimeters of rain. And you can see it consistently going up. But if you know anything about Vancouver weather, we get very little rain in July and August. November can be really bad, and it almost looks like that sometimes, but even then, it's not quite this much. So, if we really look at this data, what we'll notice is that this is actually the cumulative amount of rain for the month or up to that point in the year. So this is our cumulative up to this point in the year. So what we actually want to find is the difference between each one of these. So to do that, we're going to create a workspace. So I'm going to create a new workspace here. And in this workspace, I am going to add a reader. Actually, let me go back to start here. I'm going to use a generate workspace. So my source data set will be an Excel spreadsheet. The data set is in FME data, elevation model, and we have a precipitation.xlsx file. So I'll grab that, check the parameters here. This all looks correct. So we just have a month and we have precipitation. And then for the writer, we are going to write back out to Excel again, creating an updated Excel spreadsheet. And the output will be going out to FME data, output train, and we'll call this one monthly precipitation .xlsx. Notice that we're not overwriting the original file. When I first started at SAFE, I'd quite often see situations where someone's like, well, I'm just trying to update this file. I'm going to read some stuff in, add some stuff to it, write it back out. It should actually be the same file name on the output, so I'll just choose the same file and overwrite it. And what would usually happen is that the first feature comes through, opens up the writer, blows away the file that's there. And you only end up with one feature in your final output. So it's a little bit reckless to overwrite directly what you have. I'll go to my parameters here. As we update this file, we will want to overwrite the existing file. FME does treat Excel spreadsheets kind of like a database. As we run the translation again, it will append the data by default to the existing data set. We actually want to overwrite it here. That'll allow us to change the schema of the output file, which will become important in a few steps here. So I'll hit OK, create the initial workspace. Always save your workspace. You never know if your workspace could go away. So I'll just save that. And now I have my reader and my writer. So now to deal with precipitation. I will drop in an attribute manager because I only have a few attributes. So the attribute manager interface does not become too cluttered. So for my precipitation, I'm going to go to the value for this, and I'll open up the arithmetic editor. Actually, wait, skipped a step there. I need the prior feature. So I'm going to look at one prior feature. So what was the precipitation last month? Compare that to this month. So for each feature, and for the dealing with this here, I'm going to give it a default value of 0. This means the very first feature that comes in, there is no cumulative up to that point. The mathematical expression I'm going to do here, it'll be subtract 0. So I have my arithmetic editor here. I am going to take this month's value for precipitation and subtract last month's value for precipitation. Hit OK, hit OK, run up to this point and inspect what I have. Click on this to inspect it, and let's see what I have here. So precipitation for the first month, 168. Next month, 105. Okay, so it is going down. This looks good. Do all of these look reasonable? Always important to do a reality check. As I mentioned before, in July and August, we actually get very little rain in Vancouver. This isn't right. And it's gone wrong for the exact same, well, a very similar reason to what I mentioned before with overwriting your file. When I made this change here, it's actually changing the value of precipitation for the next month as well. So it's changing the value and just not doing it correctly because it's overwriting what the previous month actually was. And we need that actual original value. So we're really messing up the cumulative values as we're going along. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to change my action here to do nothing and clear all that out. And now I'm going to give it a new attribute value, which will be monthly precipitation. If I can spell that right. Monthly precipitation, something like that. And now I'll do that here. So the value of this is this month's precipitation minus last month's precipitation. So if you're going to be updating an attribute, generally speaking, it's best to create an entirely new attribute. If I really need that to then be the actual name, I could rename it later on, do some additional cleanup. So let's run this and see what we get. Oh, I used the text editor instead of the expression evaluator. Whoops. Yeah, that's a text editor. Let's use the actual expression evaluator. There we go. And value, has that got it? That should do it. There we go. So now you can see it starts off looking very similar, but we get more reasonable rainfalls for the months of July and August. Now that I'm happy with that, I can run that out to the final output. Okay, there's a good question here. Is there an auto save option? There is. You can set that in the settings. It does not save automatically initially. You have to make sure you save your workspace at least once. Now, once you've saved it once, then there's a recovery file. So I've saved this. If I open up the containing folder, there's a recovery file there. So then if something should happen to Workbench, let me just go to the task manager. I'll kill Workbench. So Workbench just goes away. The next time I open up this workspace, I'll just double click on that. It will ask me, or it will see that recovery file, and it will prompt me to recover any unsafe changes. So yes, you could have it saved automatically, There's also an option to save every time you hit the run button. I find personally for my usage that's unnecessary as long as I've remembered to save the workspace once. It'll see the recovery file and then it'll recover any of those unsaved changes. And this should all be right back to where it was. And there you go. Okay, so please do the exercise. And we'll continue at, let's see, it's about 15 minutes for this exercise. We'll continue at 12:05. No, wait. No, don't need that much time. Stop. We're going to continue at 45, 48, 11:50. Don't need to put the break in there just yet. So we'll continue at 11:50. Good luck, everybody.